Hello, Sani, Bonani, Habari Sana, Dumilang. So welcome back, and to the returnees, the old Rafiki. It's good to have you back as always, and to the new Rafiki who just joined the Rafiki Nation. Thank you. You are welcome. Karibu. It's nice over here, and I'm glad that you've joined us. And if you're just flipping around and you came across this video, I hope you stay. Please subscribe. It is free. Mahala. So welcome to the Rafiki Nation. Rafiki, thank you so much for such overwhelming responses from last video. It's been amazing. It really warmed my heart. Yeah, it was really amazing. I read all the comments, and so it really gave me joy. It showed me that, you know, there is a saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. And in our case, it takes just one Rafiki to build the Rafiki Nation, and you've shown me that. So thank you, Asante San. So today, I wanted to touch a different topic. I wanted to talk about the first 100 days. You know, it's like when you join a new job, or you join a new company, or in our case, you move to a new country, a new city. Or even when you are, you know, you just gave birth and you've got a child, you just have a new baby at home, or whatever the case, whatever is happening in your life that's changing. The first 100 days are very important, because the first 100 days, like we spoke on the last video about the cycle of change, or rather the graph of that goes through change. It's the same thing. The first 100 days are the 100 days where you make a difference wherever you are in that particular situation. So on my first 100 days, I'm just going to touch on the first, or rather, going to touch on the 5 things. So Rafiki, before we start today's topic, just some housekeeping. I think my neighbors decided that today is the day they're going to be moving furniture around. So there is a bit of some noise. If you hear that noise, nothing much I can do. It is, they're moving around. I think they're redecorating or reorganizing. Whatever the case is, I see collab. So today, I thought I'll touch on my first 100 days in Dar es Salaam. And on that first 100 days, the top 5 things that I got to learn about Dar es Salaam, or rather some of them I've known before, but they might be worth sharing with you. So let's take it from the top in no particular order. Weather. You know, let me tell you, Rafiki, I come from South Africa. In South Africa, we have 4 seasons. We've got summer, autumn, winter, spring. And by the way, spring is my favorite season. I mean, it's the rebirth, it's the new season, it's green, it's flowers are blooming, but it's you know, it's like, yeah, like I said earlier on, it's the rebirth. So I love spring. Now, this side of the equator, in Dar es Salaam specifically, there's just 2 seasons. It's dry, or it's a rainy season. 2. It's a dry season or rainy season. And in both of those seasons, it's very hot. Like literally, it's really hot. And especially in like the first part of the year, like in January going into June, it gets really hot. In fact, from December, it gets really hot. And then you've got a rainy season, which is around April, May to June. It starts raining and it comes down quite heavy, and then it starts again around November. But other than that, I'm enjoying the weather. I'm loving the weather. I was born in KwaZulu-Natal, which is almost a similar weather, where it's warm, it's hot, it's humid. The only difference is over this side in Dar es Salaam, it is like, it's actually like Durban on steroids, and it's really hot. But at the same time, I really enjoy the weather. I think it's a beautiful weather. It's really, it has done wonders for my skin. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. But you know what, talking about the skin, one of the things I've gotten to realize, having changing from the Johannesburg weather to Dar es Salaam weather, it meant changing certain things with me. Things like, the facial products that I use. I needed to adjust those to adjust to the new weather, including the perfume that I use. I had to actually change because the scent that I was actually used to when I was in Johannesburg at a different weather to being in Dar es Salaam, it was actually not gelling. So I had to change my scent. And for some reason, I think it just happened without even me noticing it. But now, Rafiki, when you actually change a place, that's one of the things you must also look at, start noticing it, because the weather does have a big impact on your skin, but on your scent as well. So you might need to change that. It happens, sometimes it doesn't happen, but it's something to look out for. So weather is one of the big changes for me. But I must say, I do not miss winter. I do not miss wearing those big jackets and jazz and whatever. I am loving this weather over here. It is hot, always on aircon and air and fan and whatever. A little movement during the day because it's hot out there, but I am loving it. And then the second thing, which I got to realize, for me, this is one of my personal favorites, is the national anthem for Tanzania. I'm South African. I got here, our national anthem in South Africa is Nkosi Sikelel' Afrika. And I got to learn that the national anthem here in Tanzania is the same. Mungu Bariki Africa, which is God bless Africa. And it's the same national anthem that was composed by the late Enoch Sontonga. So it was quite interesting. For some reason, I never actually got around checking that. So it took me by surprise, but it was a nice surprise. So there is something about Tanzania and South Africa. I think the relationship is stronger than you and I realize. It's a very strong relationship. So it was really nice to actually learn. Even how it's said, how it is sung, it's exactly how we actually sing. So Mungu Bariki Africa, Nkosi Sikelel' Africa. It's it's amazing, isn't it, Rafiki? Yeah. So that's the second one. The third thing, which actually also I think it's something to note about Dar es Salaam, but more about Tanzania, is the population. So Tanzania is one of the countries in West Africa with the highest population. I think you're looking at about 60 to 70 million people in this country, and of that, just about 10%, which is about 7 million, are residing in Dar es Salaam. So they are living in Dar es Salaam. So it's quite, if you think about how big the country is, and you think about Dar es Salaam being, yes, it is a big city, but from the population point of view, it's one of the most populated cities in East Africa. So there's a lot of people in this city. And you see that with traffic. We're going to touch about traffic as we move on the next topic. But it is a big city, but it's also the highly populated city. And you also get a lot of people coming from different parts, which is the neighboring countries, like, for example, people from Malawi, people from Zambia, coming to live in Dar es Salaam. Obviously, everyone comes this side to look for a better life, like we always do. Even in other countries, the major cities, people will move away from the village to go to the major city, looking for better life, to better themselves, but also to better their families. Those are the realities in Africa. But I don't think it's only in Africa. It's like in any other country. The same happens in Europe. So there is always going to be a movement of people, especially coming to the bigger cities. So yeah, Dar es Salaam is actually one of the big cities in East Africa. And by the way, did you know that Dar es Salaam is actually an Arabic name which means a border of peace, a haven of peace? How fitting. Let that sink. When I actually learned about that, I said to myself, wow. You know, sometimes you get channeled in situations without even realizing. So for me, as an individual, personal experience, I just find that since I've been in this city, I've sort of find so much peace, so much, I'm like, I feel centered. So when I learned about Dar es Salaam being a port of peace, a place of peace, serenity, it just resonated so much with me. But yeah, that was an oversight. But like, by the way, it's 2 years old, so it's single jigai. Yeah, so that was that. The other part that I thought it's quite interesting to know, and I think Rafiki, these are the things that you probably will you know this already, or if you didn't know, now you're gonna find out. Tanzania is one of the countries that is about many borders. It's bordered by many countries. So there is 8 countries that are actually neighboring countries for Tanzania. It's one of the very few countries with a whole lot of neighboring countries, or rather sharing a lot of borders. So Tanzania share a border with Rwanda, with Kenya, Uganda. Those are all in East Africa. They share a border with Congo, which is more like Central Africa. They also share a border with Southern Africa countries, Malawi, Zambia, Mozambique. So it's one of the very few countries that actually share many borders. So, which also makes it more accessible to actually come to. It's one of the countries also that is actually quite accessible, because you can literally drive from Southern Africa. It's quicker, because you can, let's say for example, you are driving from South Africa, you can drive through Mozambique, or you can go through Zimbabwe, then go to Zambia and come to Tanzania. Or you can come by air, which they are direct flights, or you can go via Ethiopia or go via Kenya. So there are many ways. Or you can just decide to take a boat and spend a few days or weeks on the water and then eventually get here. So that's the beauty about this country, and there's something also unique about this country. And talking about that, I think it's lends itself to the next topic, which is getting around the city, or rather getting around just Tanzania in general. So there are usual means of getting around, like the buses. I must say, I haven't seen the train. I think they are. Oh yeah, there's no train yet. There is a plan of building the electric train. You know, something similar to underground rail or how train. So that's in the process. But for now, you can get around by, you know, like your own car. You can actually get around by bus. And the nice thing, for example, with a bus, they operate like 24 hours. That's one of the interesting things which I find, that especially being in Africa, or rather in East Africa, that's the transport is 24 hours. So there's bus, there's mini kumbis, those are public transport. There is ferry, so you can actually take a ferry moving from the one part of Dar es Salaam to the next part of Dar es Salaam. So like for example, if you're in Dar es Salaam in town, you can go to Kigamboni either by ferry, which is quite quick. I think going from town to Kigamboni takes about 10 minutes by ferry. It is 10 minutes, yes. Or you can actually drive. It takes a bit longer, but there is a bridge that's been built now, so which shorten the drive. But I think for me, that is one of the things that was quite interesting, because you hardly find those like a ferry in different countries, like in South Africa. You know, it would make sense to take a ferry from, let's say, from Bluff going into city center in Durban, but we don't have stuff like that. And I think here there is actually, I think it's quite, it's advanced, and I think it's actually quite good to actually enable them moving around. And then there's others like this Bajaji, which is a three-wheeler. Yeah, yeah, they are super fast. I've used them. You have to actually use Bajaj. You can come here and not, you know, get on the three-wheeler, the Bajaj. They are quite reasonable in terms of price, and they are quite nice for, you know, going close, like going to the shop, which is a short distance. They are good for short distance. And then there is Border Border. Border Border is a motorbike. Oh my goodness, I don't have yeah, I'm not brave enough to get on the Border Border. No, no. They are super quick, and they go everywhere. Like boo, 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 they are there. The traffic, I'm even scared to drive because of Border Border. So, But yeah, so there's also Uber. And the interesting part about Uber here, you get Uber, which is the normal car, but you also get Bajaji on Uber. You also get Border Border on Uber. But with a normal Uber, because I've been taking a lot of Uber, because I'm not driving at the moment, so I use Uber a lot. Yo, it's another one. Uber, there's always an element of surprise when it arrives. It's either gonna arrive as it says on the app, or it will arrive, it's a different car. You're like, okay, what happened? And the person will just tell you that, oh no, I'm using this car today. Or it will arrive in a car and you look at this car like, what happened? It's like you've been to war and back. Then you have to cancel. I have to cancel Uber. I'm like, I'm not getting into that car. And they don't see anything wrong. So it's been very interesting. And then here's the classic. Uber is in English. Now, the person does not understand English because they speak Swahili. Now you are driving in this Uber, which is giving directions in English, and there's a miscommunication with the driver. It's an amazing race. I think Uber actually needs to adapt to different countries' languages because, wow. Yeah, I can write stories about Uber every day. There is just something about Uber. But there is Uber and there is Bolt. So moving around the city, it's not a problem at all. You've got a variety. And it's also price range, a different price range. So we're good. So the next part is accommodation. Yeah, trying to find accommodation in this city, it is a bit of a challenge, purely because the rent is quite expensive. I mean, I come from Johannesburg, but if I compare the rent in Johannesburg and the rent over here, icon. The rent here is very expensive. And to make matters worse, the rent is in dollars, but you pay in local currency, but it is priced in dollars. So that also complicates things. And I think what makes the rent expensive over this side is just that the city was not built for foreigners, to accommodate the foreigners, or rather the demand that's now coming through with more people coming into the city, especially people of foreign nationals coming into the city. So it was not accommodated for that. So there's a lot of construction, building of apartments that's happening now. So the demand versus the supply, it's not balancing. There is less supply and high demand, making the price quite high. So the rent quite high. So that's one of the things that is actually not. It's a low point. It's the accommodation is expensive in the city. And you know, when you move to the city, you want to stay in an area which is safe, which is more easy to move around. So you're bound to stay in areas like Oyster Bay, Masaki, probably Mbezi Beach, you know, in those areas, which is like Kinondoni or Mikocheni. So those are the areas that are more around and easy to access, and also there's quite a lot of this, even grocery stores are centered around those areas. I think for the first few months or maybe 6 months to a year, it makes sense to stay there. Then you can venture out once you've actually the city. But if I look at rent, it's priced around, to get a decent rent here, it's about 1,500 and above. 1,500 US dollars, not 1,500 rand. No, 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 no. It's 1,500 US dollars per month. And to complicate matters, you need to pay 6 months in advance, or rather a year in advance. If your rent period is 6 months, then you need to pay 6 months in advance. If your rent period is 1 year, you pay 1 year in advance. Or you can negotiate to pay for the first 6 months, and then when the first 6 months, then you renew to pay for the balance of the 6 months. But it's not per month. You're not gonna pay per month. It's like that. Why? I don't know. It is what it is. You comply or you sleep on the streets. So go figure. And so yeah, that's one of the things which I think for me it's one of the low points. But you know what? You comply or you sleep on the street. So rafiki, that's what's up. So accommodation. Then the other part is my last, or rather second last, is food. So that's another thing about this. We will dissect food at a later stage, but I think just high level on food. Food is also expensive, because most of the things are actually imported from other countries. So there's a lot of imports vis-a-vis stuff that is actually locally produced. But things like vegetables, fruits, those ones are cheap. But if you're looking for really other stuff, you will actually have to pay big bucks for that. But yeah, it's not that bad. It is affordable. It's just that if you compare to other countries that actually locally produce, and here because of imports, then there's a difference. But it's not that bad. It's affordable. And what I also find quite interesting, we will, like I say, we'll talk a lot about food probably on my next video, where we talk about the Swahili food and but what I find interesting about food in this country, especially meat, they eat a lot of goat vis-a-vis beef. I find that quite interesting. I've actually converted as well. I'm enjoying goat. I come from a space where goat is a sacred meat, okay, from my culture, growing up as a Zulu woman. Goat has always been viewed as it's one of those where or there's a function, when there's something, then there's goats that gets sacrificed, or whatever the case is. And excuse me for those that actually do not do those things, but it happens in the African communities. And then when I get here, goats is like literally everyday dish, and I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. So I am really enjoying goat. So yeah, those are the top things that I wanted to share with you. What is the last one? The other part is the nightlife. That for me is quite interesting. I think because it's it's hot in this side. It's very hot. So during the day, people do get out, but not a lot. I find that the nightlife is on another level. And it's because of the weather, but also because the city is a growing city. The economy is growing. So there's also new money on board. So the nightlife is quite hectic. People like literally out, families are out, kids are out at night. There's a lot of going out, go to restaurants, and there's a lot of restaurants coming on board, new coming into town. And even at night, the play areas are open, kids are playing. It's a very, very, very interesting culture. So, because you're so used in other countries, the culture of out, going out for picnic during the day. Here, yes, you go to the beach and all of those things, but the nightlife, it's like on another level. And I think it does require a topic and a video on its own. So we'll do that next time, right? So yeah, those are my top observations, Rafiki, and thank you for watching the video and coming up to this far. And I hope you learned something. I hope there were nuggets that you actually took from my observation. And I'm looking forward to reading your comments and you know, having the conversation, taking the conversation to the comments, Rafik. It's always nice when I hear your thoughts and I hear what you all about. But also I'd like to hear what you like us to talk about next time. Maybe there's a topic, there's a burning topic that you like me to actually get onto it. So I'll do that. Drop me a comment, let me know. And on my side, thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. Asante sana. Till next time. Cheers. Bye bye.